are chit-chatting with Mr. Beau Moultrie. Had the honor of meeting you while I was in the REAP course late last year. To this day, you're the most memorable and most dynamic speaker we had. Everybody remembers Beau.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know. I'm honored as well, man. You meeting such talented people like yourself. So.
Oh, that's cool. Nice to say. But so what we want to chit chat, you could give a little bit of your background, but we definitely want to chit chat about, what's going on, not just in Georgia, but in the world and how it's affecting commercial real estate. Okay. But so Beau Moultrie, so you're a partner. You could say your company name and your landlord rep.
Yep, Landlord Representation, a Pinnacle Leasing and Management in Alpharetta, Georgia, and we've acquired. The company has acquired some centers, and then I do have clients that I represent, primarily grocery anchored shopping centers. So that's what we do. Love that space. Love being with the owners and adding value to their properties. And I don't know if you want me to just jump in now.
Yeah, I mean, just being a landlord rep, you're in and being in the retail area of commercial real estate, with all the restaurants closing and everything, mostly closing except like grocery stores and things like that. That seems like it would, directly affect the industry that you're in. Yes.
Yeah. And it is, but here's what I'll say, kind of what I did when this news first started happening. So the first thing I did, I really wanted to kind of get to this, because I think the first line of defense in a situation like this is your mental health. And so what I did was I aligned my day to almost mimic what I've done before this happened. So I went out and bought full workout gym equipment, and so I still get up at a certain amount of time. I still work out, put my headphones on, get into my workout gear, do everything. And then when I get to business, I still am dressed at least business casual before I do things. And so one of the things, and I'll send you this, I was fortunate to be on a call with John Crossman, and he had organized a call with the top institutional investors. And I have notes from that. And so we had, people from Simon Property Group, people from Echo, people from, large firms. And I came off that thing energized. So here's the one thing I did. One thing I did was, in a time of crisis like this, in your relationships, they're going to go two ways. You're either going to strengthen that relationship or you're going to weaken that relationship. It's not going to stay the same. And so what I begin immediately is find out, how do I add value to my clients? I begin to think about, what do I do? And so what I did is I went to all the centers for my clients that aren't in Atlanta, and I went to their centers and I documented what each tenant was doing. And then I sent a report back and I said, this one, I would anticipate having a rent reduction conversation. So I gave them an ability to be proactive with their assets. And then what I did with that is I said, for the business that I wanted to acquire that I hadn't gotten yet, there's some owners I want, I sent an email to them saying, hey, this is what I'm doing for my current client. Maybe you need to share this with your agent, like that, so that you're ahead of it and you're proactive. So I'm just adding value. And the weird thing about adding value, and it always works in like this, never fails, is that when I was out adding value, I was in this space, and by helping, I was working with a national tenant, and the guy said, something? He said, Beau, he said, you're so responsive, you're on the ball. I want you to find me 5 additional locations. And so this national tenant is right now active. We just went to lease last Friday, and they're occupying 5,000 square feet to 7,500 square feet. And he wants another 5 locations in Atlanta, all because I'm out helping, I'm out adding value. And there's something about when you give, you get back. And so even in this climate, there's ways. And another thing I really think about this that has me so excited is this is a time where I think the cream rises to the top. I think you have the people who are just transactional, just looking for the dollar. But then if you are adding value now, If you go out, so say you want this shopping center, and this guy and this owner wouldn't have given you the time of day. You know what would happen if you went out to a center and said, and document what each tenant was doing, and then say, at this other center, here's another tenant with the same use. They're open. They're doing delivery. They're doing this. Why don't, why don't we connect your store with the guy here, and maybe they can figure out what they're doing and be successful. So if you can go out and do that, and just, because some agents are people right now, they don't know what to do. They're throwing their hands up. Right now, it's not about a time about how much money you make. It's about how much value you can create for that person. And if this person, he's a landlord sitting back and he's saying, man, wait a minute, Jacqueline went out to my center. She's not even working for me. She's giving me a full blown up report of this. I can then forward you the conversation I had from the institutional investors, and showing that you have value, you have the ability to connect to these, showing them best practice of what these big guys are doing and how we can implement this on your property. Now you've added value that the other agent isn't adding. And so you instantaneously, you're finding ways to get business right now. So that's kind of where I'm at and what I'm doing.
Gotcha. So you have proactively went to the stores in your portfolio and looked at what they were doing financially and decided for them whether they were going to need a rent reduction or not. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what
I don't want to say I decided for them, but I think what you're doing also is, you have a landlord or a client. My client's a landlord, and they don't know necessarily what's going on. And so what I'm trying to do is prepare them, because the worst thing is get on the phone and go and try to spitball what's going to be fair and equitable.
Right. Okay.
This is what the best practices in the industry are right now from this conference call. Here's your tenant here. I would anticipate 3 months of half rent reduction and So that way I'm giving them a game plan, so they're not just inundated with the stuff coming in. And that's how I'm adding that value right there. And in these moments when I'm strengthening and adding value, when somebody calls and tries to take my client from me, they're going to think, were you out adding value? Were you out, are you going to go that extra mile that Beau's going to get this done for me? So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Okay.
So with the tenants that you have within your portfolio, are they, I know you mentioned grocery as one. What are some of the other kind of tenants that you have? Are they clothing stores, ice cream parlors, food? What do you have?
I think all of the above. I mean, I know, my services, like the nail salons and stuff, you're just going to have to give them some type of break now. They can't even open. And same thing with our gyms. The restaurants it's interesting. What I'm saying is, like, the really strong operators are the people, because in restaurants kind of have two groups we kind of look at. You have people who kind of are talented and can cook, and then you have people who are just good operators. They've worked at a larger, corporate corporate restaurant group, and they just seem that they have systems in place. It's just amazing when their systems, and a lot of them are still doing takeout. Their revenue has dropped some, but I mean, some of them are only asking for some of them are asking for like a month, half rent. They just feel like they'll be back. And then some other ones we know, it's going to be maybe even 6 months plus. So, that's challenging, but also, some of the lenders are stepping in and helping working with landlords, giving some forbearance for a while too. So.
Right. Yeah, I heard about a loss of income insurance. Mm-hmm. Is that something that some of the tenants already have in place to cover something like this?
Well, the interesting thing, I think we were talking about force majeure, and I think the pandemic doesn't cover that. It's a loss of business income due to physical losses. Is what we're understanding. I'm not saying I'm an attorney or giving it legal advice, but it's kind of the way it's interpreted to us. So we're thinking that as a landlord, their landlords got to step in and do that. We don't think that that insurance is going to be able to step in, and they're not. We just think it's going to be a no. I mean, the other thing too, you know, with all of these businesses, you know, the insurance company would just bankrupt anyway. So
Right. Okay. Okay.
that burden's gonna be on the landlord.
Okay. So as far as your client being the landlord,
Mm-hmm.
are they able to, I know when you're mentioning the, you know, reduction in rent for X amount of months, maybe short term, maybe a little longer for some. So that's directly affecting your client's bottom line, right? Are they able to recoup that anyway or down the line?
Well, the kind of what they're proposing, kind of I think was the industry, and we're starting to see from our national retailer. I have a couple of national retailers that have contacted me, and we're seeing that they feel like, you know, they can do, you know, they can reduce it now and pay that back over 12 months.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of what they're proposing. And then the other thing is, not, so what we have is in a situation, one proposal is what we call outside of term. So if it's a 5-year lease and we give them 3 months free rent, then it's a 5-year, 3-month lease. So you tack it on at the end outside of term. And so that's another, then it's like, there's a couple creative ones. One is, you know, I think also too, if you have a landlord client, not to be punitive, but this is a good time sometimes when the tenant is asking for rent relief that you know, you're able to talk to them about some of these leases have some pretty prohibitive things in them from a landlord's perspective. Like some of them will have one tenant is here and they want 2 co-tenants. And if one of the co-tenants drops out, then they want the rent automatically in half. Or there's some old landlords that have some restrictions against us being able to lease to certain uses. And so I think some people are saying, you know, this is a good opportunity just to have a conversation saying, you know, with retail changing so much, you know, it's not the same as it used to be. Let's sit down and take care of some of these restrictions we have in here as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we work with you, you work with us. So
Right. So it's really just about creatively putting a plan together. So
yeah,
it benefits in the short term for the long run. So
yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are partners, you know, and I've yesterday I spent time at centers, and today I just got back from a center and I met for lunch with my partner, and you know, I'm in there stressing to the tenants. Some of them, it's amazing, you know, they're scared to I've been there multiple days and they're scared to tell me what they want. And I say, look, I don't care how absurd you think it is, just tell me what you need and let's start working on it. You know, because we've got to get it. We got to be a partner right now. And so I've been really going back, actually begging people to give me to tell me what they need, because you know, we can help you. We don't know what you need, but if you say something and tell me, and I've lost this much business, then let us know so we can come up with a game plan. So this is tomorrow will be my 3rd day at the center, and I've only, out of all the tenants, I only got 2 tenants to respond, and I'm sitting there hammering, letting them, we're here to help. And so that's, you know, people are good natured. I think that's the way I believe. I just have to see the world that way. And I think some are you know, they're, you know, every time I talk to these tenants, like, you know, I want to do what's fair. And I said, I know, you know, you know, at the end of the day, I said, but, you know, let's just, if you need 6-7 months, tell me. If you need 8 months, let me know and see what we can come up with.
They don't want to ask too much.
Yeah.
They feel like this. Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, for me, this is really truly a time of service, because these people have invested their own money into the space. This is their livelihood. And so you can't, you gotta, every time, every day, every morning I get up, before I go out and talk, I really, you know, remind myself today, be of service today, listen, have empathy, have compassion, because, you know, they did a lot. And so, you know, of course I go there and I'm mentally prepared to spend a lot of time with them, because they need somewhere to vent this. And so, you know, right now, this is a time where, you know, I feel like I'm a counselor, psychologist or something, but you got to have that compassion right now. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, the calm thinking too, I think, because people kind of get running scared, and, you know, if you got a client, a landlord that's afraid, and the tenant is afraid, and then if you have an agent too that's afraid. Everybody's trying to hold on to what little bit they have, and then the communication goes out the window.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
point you made. I put it down. Calm. Stay calm. That's what I've been doing.
I've been trying. I've been trying. So how do you, I know a couple people who have transitioned, a couple commercial agents who have transitioned their businesses into representing tenants and renegotiating their leases. Have you met any of those, ran into any of that where you had to work directly with a realtor?
Yeah. I just got off a really good call yesterday with a national tenant, and she reached out to me, and they're going to send a proposal today. And of course, I'll be honest with you, it's my preference to work with another agent. I mean, because it to me is like lawyer to lawyer, when they can work. And I think you raise a good point. Again, I think if you right now, sorry about that.
Yep, I lost you.
Somebody tried to call in. Let me go back to Zoom. I think if you're trying to get business, I would come up with some way of approaching, because right now you have a lot of tenants who are worried. I think it's a great time if you want to gain more clients as a tenant rep, like I am doing with the landlord rep. It would be a good time to go to a store and say, hey, I know you you're probably going to have this with negotiate with the landlord. I'll email you that call. I've been privy enough to see the best practices. I know what the standards are, and I can work and take that pressure off of you and make sure that your business is viable after this pandemic. I think that's a great way to gain business. Think about that.
Okay.
What'd
you say?
It's what I'm doing. That's how I'm gaining business.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely. So if it's the conversation is to see how we can work together here for the short term, and so we can go long term, that helps your client, the landlord, and then it's also beneficial to you too, because you can keep that tenant in there, right? Cheaper to keeper.
Yes.
Cheaper to keeper. And then even if there's maybe a gap, or maybe a short-term short piece of income that you're not getting now, you'll recoup it on the other end.
Yeah. Right? And I tell people all the time, now's not, I know it sounds crazy, but now's not the time to focus on the money. Because you get the relationship, the money will come, I promise you. And also, I was talking to Olympias. I don't know if I went over this in the class. Maybe I did. I think I did. But what people don't understand in sales is that I never pitch.
Right,
I never pitch business. What I do is give value. And from value, business comes. And the relationship with that business that comes from value is unbreakable. I got a client, like I said, I've had him for, 8 years. There's real estate firms in Atlanta calling him all the time. He won't give them the time of day. He's only going to do business with me. He told me, Beau, I'm yours until you fire me. And I have 11 of his centers. And that's because these other guys are talking transactional. I'm talking relationship and value. And so here's another thing I'll give with that. So I go to this Vietnamese restaurant quite a bit. And I remember one time the owner, she says, Beau, what do you do? I said, commercial real estate. That's all I said. I didn't say anything. I said, I'm in commercial real estate. Didn't say anything else, walked out. Didn't try to give a card or anything. So she questions me kind of like a month later. And, so what do you do? I'm landlord rep, da, 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 da. And then after that, she would keep, she'd ask every now and then. And I would always wait for her to ask. And then every time, I just did this. I'm busy. She's kind of gauging, because father time.
Okay.
Yeah. Father time lets you know if the person is authentic or not. Because is his story change? Does his energy change? Does he come into depressed one day? She's like, just gauging my success. And and if my consistency of who I am, my branding. I tell everybody my points of contact, my personal points, that's part of my branding. And so then finally she hits me one day. She says, Beau, could you, me and my husband were looking at this. Could you call and look at the space for me and let me know what you think? At that point, I have a client. And then every time there's a real estate transaction, she calls me and she said, we saw this. Here's the number. Can you set up so we can show it and then give me your feedback? And another thing I do is, and I think I shared this with you, I'm pretty sure, is I do a pro forma, even for somebody like her. And I'll sit there and do a financial model. And then what this does, it shows that you're an expert. And then when you're able to articulate it, it shows you're an expert. So for her, I'll say, hey, I say, if you and your husband buy this building, here's what it should be at the market cap rate. This is what the price of the building should be. This is where you should break even on this date, and if your sales are this number, so I break down. So now she's looking like, okay, Beau is not just somebody transaction. He's giving me more value. He's smart. He's intelligent. He knows what he's talking about. He knows about commercial real estate. And now, I'm not saying anything out of place here. I think we know that the Asian community is historically very tight knit and do business with each other. But her and her husband will only do real estate business with me. And then I picked up another client through that from her because of that. And because I added value. I never pitched for business ever. It just doesn't work for me. But I build those relationships and add value. Like now, going out to those centers and sitting those, that's value add first. And then we sit down and have a conversation, find me as a person. Then we get to the transaction. So that's what so right now, though I would focus on adding value, building relationships. Now is the best time to get in the door of these people who wouldn't give you the time of day when they were busy and they were making tons of money. Fear opens the door, baby. I mean, you sit back now. I mean, this guy who was high and mighty as landlord, he could only talk to certain landlord group stuff. You get out and did a report and say, hey, I want to do this. I'm willing to go the extra mile and work for your property. You can't, I'm excited about right now, personally.
Wow. Okay. Well, so what would you say to someone, so the mind shift from being transactional with your eye on the money versus, how can I be of service? So that's an interesting shift, especially if you're somebody that needs the money. It's hard to get your mind off of, I got to get to this, the closing, or I got to get to this signature when you really need it. So can you talk a little bit about, what could somebody do when you're desperate?
No,
we talked about keep it calm, but.
Well, Lord knows I've been desperate. I've shared my story in the class. I've been very desperate in the past. And I think that's why I learned that I had to have a process every day to for my mind. And so, like I said, every day I get up and I this morning I did 2.5 miles. I do another 2 miles this evening. And I take this time just to clear out and to think. And so I think the best way for me to put it is you have to understand that you're on a journey, and you have to understand that you have to have a strong belief that your tomorrow is better than your today. Now, if you understand that if your tomorrow is better than today and you're just on a journey, then this moment is temporary, and this my life is not what it is right now. It's just where I happen to be at on my journey. That's the best way I can just say how I had to think about it. And what that allowed me to do was then sit down and reverse engineer my future. And so what I did with that, I said, okay, I know I want to be at this point, but I'm here. I know it sounds simple, everybody, but I'm here. What do I do today? And I still do this. What am I doing? The question I always ask, my primary question is, what am I doing today to make my future what I want it to be? What am I doing today to make sure that I obtain what I want in the future? And so that right there, that drive, even if it's just one thing I'm supposed to do today to improve my life and to get where I need to get, that's what makes me add value. Because right now, if you don't have the reputation and you don't have the clients and you don't have that, then the only thing, but you have time. Only thing you can do is add value. This is where you get your foot in the door. Like I said, if you really want that restaurant client or some tenant rep clients, if you really want that shopping center, now is the time you go out and understand that what you're doing now, if you didn't do that yesterday, that means you're doing something different now, and your future changes with every different thing that you do. So it just takes one landlord to say, I want to work with you, right? Mm-hmm. And you get that listing, and all of a sudden you got now you see the opportunity to make income. It only takes really one or two tenant reps from real good restaurant. You get in and add value now, and then all of a sudden, boom, the future hits, and then something else hits, and something else hits. But if you don't step out your comfort zone, if you don't do something different today than you did yesterday, then your future is not going to change.
It'll be the same.
It just isn't. You got to have that fortitude. I love one of the things, I think it's a quote I heard from T. Jakes, is he was talking about, just because you stole something doesn't mean you're a thief. And so, and what he was, and I love that, because no matter what you are, where you're at, it's not who you are. You're something else. It's like a snapshot of where you're at in life. And I can tell you, for me, I was almost broken. I kept trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to make it? How in the world can I get better? How in the world can I get more successful? And I just felt like life was just shutting me down. I just remember one day sitting down and said, I got to figure out how this, it's me. It's not anybody else. It's on me. There's something I'm doing that's not bringing me what I want to have. Right. And that's when I decided to make a different shift. I got mentors. I got, I remember of course you walk around and, man, I'm proud, but I was like, man, I got to figure out something. I walked into an investment bank just off the street. I said, man, how do y'all make money?
Okay.
Just how does somebody get a job here? I'm tired of where I'm at, y'all. And the guy sat down with me and said, hey, this is what you do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then he connected me to a gentleman named Merlin Allen. And Merlin Allen became my mentor. He taught me about commercials. And so I think the first thing is a really good mentor, because they take decades of knowledge and give it to you in a day. You're compressing all their knowledge. And then as you learn from a really good mentor, you learn connections. I think one of the students from Project REAP, she was looking for a job, and I had just had lunch with one of the top tenant reps in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And she told me, she said, Beau, she said, next person I hire on this team is not going to look like me. She said, and I didn't even ask her. She said, it's going to be more diverse. And I was like, wow. And so when this thing came, I think when one of the gentlemen over at Project REAP said, hey, Beau, this person is looking for a job and they think it's landlord rep. We're not taking anybody on right now, but I said, something, maybe I can connect her with this other girl who's looking to hire. And so I think in that instance, I think even though here I'll put it just plain. When I teach a class at Project REAP, there's what I've noticed is, and this is just human nature. People reach out to me, they do the shadow, they do the intern, and then we don't communicate. One, I'm super busy. I get it. I know that. And trying to catch up with me is crazy. But, second is, no matter how nice they are, they want something. But when as time passes and they don't necessarily get what they want, then communication dries up and then they're just left out. But the people who do better, and like I do, is you always find a way to communicate. And then what happens is you stay in that sphere of that person. And then when something comes up, you're the first name at the top. Something, Jacqueline, she might be looking for something. Let me connect her with this. Okay. And that's kind of how it happens. And so the other part of this, if you're not doing something like, how are you managing your relationships? Okay. It's huge. Are you sending out, Christmas text and thank you and 6-7 months from the time you met them? Are you saying, hey, can we just meet for lunch today? Or hey, you got to keep a relationship. And so I even have relationships I keep with my professors from college. I email them and tell them, thank you for teaching me what you taught me. I've applied now and I appreciate it. And this is I mean, they don't get that from you. How many people do that for them? And even I reached out to the head of the real estate society and told him, hey, thank you for what you've done. It's like a couple weeks ago. And so I'm always managing relationships that I've built, and I'm always being conscientious of that. And I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on. If it doesn't happen in a certain time frame, then they don't stay in touch. But I'm not saying this with any arrogance. But if the person is busy and they're doing their thing, and you're trying to get there, it's the impetus is on you to maintain that relationship. That person is super busy, and so I've got, like me, I get emails and stuff all the time. I mean, from students that I've dealt with. I'm dealing with professors and then different people in the business, and then I'm getting all kind of stuff. And then I have a couple of students from REAP that stay in touch with me, and we go out and have lunch. We do different things, and I'm helping them any way I can. Those people who do that are the ones who needle begins to move, and it's not a kiss up or anything. It's just you're staying in touch, and you're gleaning from it, and it kind of pulls you into a different level. Gotcha. Because you're staying in touch. Because what happens is, here's how success works, I believe. Like you're working, then you kind of just touch the sphere of somebody else who's there, and you touch it once or twice, and you got to fall back down to where you're at, and you're touching, and it's kind of like the seesaw. And what happens is, as that gains momentum, it kind of just pulls you into that next level. And what you're doing with mentorship and being around them, you're learning quite a few things. You're learning, you kind of get worked into their circle of their core group. And then you're learning the behavioral patterns, the mannerism that it takes to be there. And I think that was what you can't put a price on. So what I would do is say, find the best mentor you can, as high up as you can, and then find a way to cultivate a relationship. I got one student in Project REAP, man. He is amazing. He just out of the blue, he just shot me a text yesterday. Beau, how are you doing? Hope all is well. That's all he does. And he's consistent with it. And I will tell you what, I have sent him, I don't know, probably 50 tenant rep leads in the last year and a half, because he stays in touch with me, and he's always positive, and he's always, never asks for anything, but I know what he does, and I send him. I was sending him probably 2 leads a week at one point. I would call somebody, I could tell they weren't where they needed to be, or they needed help. I say, hey, why don't you contact him and do that? Now he's one of the only ones that stays in touch with me the way he does. He sends me cards. He'll send me something. Just staying in touch. And I've been out with him multiple lunches. We're on the phone call and talk, and he just that relationship cultivation. I can't help but want to help him more because he's always there. You know what I mean? So.
Well, that's interesting. Bringing up the mentorship and, being new in commercial real estate, and especially also new in the Atlanta area. There's also,
I was going to share my next week class that I think where it has, I don't know if it's hurt me, but I think we all kind of end up this way. So the way I was going to describe it is, I know it's tough when you're trying to make it. But what I had to learn is that what you have to find a way to do is build your own team. And I think what most people mess up is you enter into somebody else's team and you want to become the lead dog. But like Project REAP, we know that Quinn and Solomon are the lead dogs there. So there's people saying, I want to be involved with Project REAP, Well, you can't. The players are already there.
Okay.
The ship has already left the port. And so you can't say, no, I won't come and do what Beau does. Well, no, Beau does what Beau does in Project REAP. And so I think in a lot of my past, I've always entered somebody else's game, somebody else's, machine. And I always wanted to matriculate and say, well, they could do it this well. No, it's their machine. So what you have to do is find out. It takes time, but you have to realize, wait a minute, I have to have my own team, my own track. And I think that's where a lot of people, they get in somebody else's environment and they want to lead in that environment. It's not your environment.
Okay.
It's not your environment. you got to. So I think that's the thing that I messed up the most in my past. Because
Okay.
you always and you go, well, they could do this. They could. Well, no, they've been doing it before you got there. That's the way they do it. That's the way they're going to do it.
Yeah. So you're
And
there to be a benefit to that team and a participant,
yes, yes.
not to go in there and rearrange things.
Yeah. And then another thing I think too, that I teach all my mentees is that, especially when you're, no matter, and I went over this project week, no matter what your age is, there's two things people mess up, I believe, is, so they come into real estate and say, well, I'm in commercial real estate, but I've been a residential real estate realtor for 20 years. Nobody cares. Shut up. Let it go. Nobody cares you've been in there 20 years. If so, stay over there. We don't care. And so what you have to go in with humility and understand, until you gain respect. I remember I didn't even have an opinion. Still, every new company I go into, even at this level, I guess, I don't do anything. I don't say anything. I go in and I win the respect first. Then I begin to offer advice. But people come in and they begin to come in and wait, why don't y'all do it this way? Don't you know about? Shut up. Get in and at least win the people over first. Win the ability to speak. And all my students, one of my students I had lunch with, he said, Beau, he said he could see people's careers go down because of that. They come in and they talk too much. And so just come in, put your head down, do your job, come in, be consistent, do your job. And then all of a sudden, people look at, then you have this respect. Now you begin to add value. And then another thing too with that is what I call conversation etiquette. And one of the biggest things is this. Here's what I do. Okay, so I've been in this for a while, and I have students in Project REAP. So when a student in Project REAP comes to me and begin to tell me about something, a deal or something, the idiot person, yeah, I know that. I've done that too. I've done that 3 years ago. I don't do that. When they come and share with me, I shut up and I win with them. My other thing, I win with other people. They're excited. They just did something. They're sharing it with me. I don't care if I've seen this 100 times before. It doesn't matter. My job is to sit there and go, man, you know something? That's fantastic. What do you do about that? My job is to lift them up. I think a lot of people, a lot of times, I don't think they even mean it, but in conversation, you'll see them almost cut the legs out from somebody else. And they're just coming to share. And whenever somebody is sharing with you, the most precious thing you can do is honor that and win with them. And because it's not my job to show them how smart I am. It's my job to show them how smart they are. They're hard. They're talking fast. They're excited. And even if there's a point of me that wants to point something out, I just shut up. I say, shut up, or shut up, and let them explain. And so in a corporate environment, sometimes these soft skills, I think, isolate some people, and they don't know why. My top clients, who are the wealthiest, they are masters at interpersonal skills. I mean, when you hear these guys get on the phone, I mean, I have one who gets on the phone with a tenant rep, and he's like, thank you so much today for giving us your time. I know your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you getting on the phone. I know that we were negotiating over some parts here, and let me just explain from our side why we feel like we need those. That's how he starts the conversation. I mean, are you kidding me? This dude is worth millions. He could get on the phone and be a jerk. And he starts the phone conversation with, how can we be of service? How can we get to, how can we get to where these can be in and we can give you what you need? And again, then he closes the conversation. I'm sitting there just taking notes. He closes the conversation. Again, thank you for your time. I know it was very valuable. I know your time is very valuable. I mean, I really do appreciate you taking the time just to hear me out and hear what we had to say. And hopefully we get something done. That's how he opens and closes the conversation. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, even in just this conversation, I mean, when you came to Project REAP, you gave me a lot to think about. We did do a brunch meeting. Yes. Gave me a lot to think about. And then this is kind of like, it's like a revival of my phone conversation. Because now I'm thinking again, I'm processing the information. So.
Well, maybe I need to just get everybody together. I'll do a free update for everybody. So I don't know. We'll figure. I need to do something because I think what happens is you, like I said, you kind of touch things, and it takes a while to get into that permanent state, new way of thinking. because you're
Yeah.
kind of in two worlds, and
Mhm.
you're kind of doing like this, and it takes you being around that other group to really break. I mean, I'm really, you know, it's awesome how his way of thinking, but it's also very, you know, I've had to make some decisions, you know, and even like who I include in my life, even for family members stuff, there's a cost to thinking differently. And
Yeah.
I think people need to understand that. And,
Mhm.
but you can't, if you're not happy where you're at, then I just had to do what I had to do.
Mhm.
And so I think that's great. I think we need to get together again. And I thank you for saying those kind words, Jack. Whatever. I think I think one of
Yeah.
the things,
That's true.
one reason why I think I'm that way is because, you know, I shared in Project Reap, I've had some tough years as a commercial real estate guy, and you know, and I think, you know, maybe it's not that dissimilar to some people. I do think a component of it had to do with my race. I think on some levels, on some things. I mean, just it is. So I think with that, it's to me, I can only be authentic when I talk to you, to the class and everything, because I can't say, oh, Beau had a rosy, smooth road, and it just worked
Right.
out and in there, and then you're not experiencing that. And you're like, well, man, it worked out for Beau, but it didn't work out. I mean, what's wrong with me? So I just think I owe
Mhm.
it to be genuine,
Yeah. Yeah.
and give you guys the truth. And another thing I was gonna say about
Mhm.
that, it was so funny because when I first started, man, because I had this dream of, you know, if I'm talking about you know, a shopping center, you know, I had this vision of you know, everybody in these power suits, and I'm articulated and I'm sounding so smart. And so I was boning up vocabulary words and speaking, saying all kind of crazy words, you know, pontification, all this. And then
Right.
I remember I was in a car with one of my clients, and I think we're just in like polo shirts and talking and laughing. And we were talking about a huge deal, and we went to dinner, and I was like, man, wait a minute, this is how it's done, you know, and this is how we're sitting here talking about a big deal. I think
Mhm.
the center he was buying, I think he paid 20 something million for that one. And we're sitting there talking real money, and we're just sitting back having a good time, laughing, just being authentic. And I think when I
Yeah.
really embraced authenticity, that's when my business and everything went up, because people can
Mhm.
feel when you're not being genuine, or feel or sense that in you when you're, you know, I remember my uncle told me something: nobody respects a kiss up. Nobody
Mhm.
does, you know. And
Yeah.
after that, you know, I just became so authentic, and giving it to you. Everything I do is just more authentic, and it's freeing, man. It's
Yeah.
you know, just to be yourself. I think that's the joy about all the stuff I went through, how hard it was. You know, in class I shared, you know, $5 one week is all we had, and living and scraping by and all that stuff. It all was worth where I'm at now. You know,
Okay.
and I think, you know, I shared that about the gentleman who found the buried treasure of the ship that sunk in South America.
Yeah.
And he had, you know, he lost his son at sea. You know, his family was ridiculed. He kept going out there searching for this treasure. And you know, his kids, his wife, and everybody had to, you know, live with this fact that your dad's out there. Is he still hunting for that treasure? You know, I got this from Tony Robbins actually, and he said the three things that guy had to know. He had to know for certainty that the treasure is there. And I think that's the thing, the first step, that, you know, I really began to visualize my future life. And I began to go around places where, you know, I found a place, you know, where had the kind of houses I want to live in stuff. And I would go and walk that neighborhood and eat around there. And I just, you know, so he knew without a doubt that the treasure is there, that it's what he wants is possible. He
Okay.
knew the second thing he had to know with pure certainty that he could find it,
Okay.
that it's there and I can get there. No matter
Mhm.
what it takes, I can find my treasure. You know,
Mhm.
day and day, I can find it. And the other thing you have to know with certainty is that when you find it, it will be worth it. So you got to understand, you got to believe you got to know without a doubt it's there. You got to know that you have what it takes to find it. and that when you find it, no matter what it took, that it'll be worth it. Those are the three things that you gotta keep in you. And I mean, I remember having people who were well-intended telling me, well, Beau, really smart people get that, or really people, or white people get that, or this person gets that, maybe, you don't see that many black people doing that, Beau, or, and they're trying to help me, they think, but
Right.
I had to get from around. And a lot of people in the beginning, especially people back home, like, yeah, I don't know, Beau, I hear you, but maybe you just need to think about this, and they're trying to take my dream from me. So I had to begin to protect that. Sorry, excuse me, and get around people who were, like I said, were better. And so, that whole thing happens. And I just it was crazy because I kept going into this really nice area. And I remember they had open house one time. And I think the house that I was touring was 4.5 million. Yeah. And it was crazy because I'm the only African-American there. And I'm in a t-shirt. Now the realtor, it's her job to find out who's worth what. She's looking at people and she's not speaking, she's kind of speaking to them. She zeroes in on me, and she follows me around and shows me stuff. She goes, hey, I want you to come and meet the architect. And so she has the architect sit down to me and explain to me, how this house is built. And she follows me out the door and she gives me her card. She said, just let me know this week, me and the architect are available to meet and speak with you. And it's at that point, I don't know how to say it, but at that point, I feel like my energy was communicating that I'm going places. Okay. Because you can't go into a situation like that and somebody else see your value, and it's their job to sift through and find value. And she just out of all the people, her time is valuable. She doesn't have time to waste. She's only going to spend time on people who can buy the house.
Right.
And I remember, I remember just driving away from there. I was like, man, I know it sounds corny, but I just felt like at that point, like I'm going something different, because this external force that is her job to recognize value, sees value in me. Okay. And even not there yet. And things like that, these little markers, I believe that God gives you markers along your life, and you have to have discernment enough to pick them up to understand what they mean. That's probably the greatest mystery of life.
So let me ask you, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. So somebody that's new in tenant representation or landlord representation, completely new, just got their license, they're interested in being one of those two things. They have a dream. They want to make it. They know it's possible because maybe they've seen somebody else do it that looks like them. But the knowledge is not there, so they don't have the confidence. Do you have to come in the game with the confidence, or how would you build that confidence up? What would you say to someone that's new?
I will send a link to you so you can share with somebody about a book by CP. There's a book by a gentleman that I send to all my students. So it's like an encyclopedia of commercial real estate, terms of that nature. Now, what I will say is you're gonna have to come in with some swag. You got to have, and so I think developing that is paramount first. Okay. And you do that with knowledge. Knowledge counters any type of insecurity, because like even racism, you might not like somebody, you get to know them, like, wait a minute, this person's a nice person. Knowledge always combats anything that's limiting. And so I think for me, it was learning knowledge, and I have quite a bit of knowledge. I think I've shared some with Project REAP. One of the things in college I was in a professor's class, and it was evaluation of an office building. I never forget it. And I kept this problem with me because our final test was to take an office building that our client was going to buy and give that client a price for it. So do all the leases and all that stuff. And I don't mind sitting over and sharing that with you too. But I think these kind of bases get you knowledge. I think the second thing is, you maybe we'll sit down, like I've had a couple of lunches, but hey, Beau, find somebody that's in it and say, okay, let me actually shadow you. Like, multiple times. Let me see how you operate on day to day, because this gives you that you're test driving it through this person kind of, how do I talk to my clients on the phone? I mean, because these things are nerve wracking. You never talk to somebody who owns a shopping center on the phone. I mean, what how does Beau deal with that? How do you talk to them? So shadowing, you'll see that. Because most of my students come in, I set up a conference call with my clients so they can see how I interact with them. Also, like with me, I might need to fill out a letter of intent and then a lease. How do I fill out a letter of intent? How do I fill out a lease? These things you're only going to get if you shadow. So, I think there's quite a few people, if you ask to shadow, you can find somebody who will let you shadow if you explain what you want to do. And also, what else does shadowing do? Shadow also connects you to that person. Then you'll find out other people they know. And so you'll begin to kind of, you kind of build these relationships within the profession. And that's where your value is. That's where you begin to get more confidence, and where you begin to, because you got to just learn. So like I said, if somebody spends a day with me, they'll learn how to fill out a letter of intent. You'll learn how to fill out a lease. You'll see how I interact with national tenant rep brokers, my clients, things like that. And it just costs you your time. That's probably the best way I would do it. And I think too, like Project REAP, I know it's canceled this year, but you get a chance to go to the International ICSC conference, and we have one in Atlanta as well. Go to the ICSC, pay that fee to go to the ICSC conference in Atlanta. Have your business cards ready, and just say, hey, I'm new, and there's some things we need to brush up on. Do you mind if I come and shadow you one day or something? I don't know any tenant rep broker that wouldn't say yes to that. And a lot of the tenant brokers now are women, and they're doing a fantastic job, like in some of these larger firms, and they would help, especially another woman, out. That's what they want to do. So that's what I do, is probably get to a conference, or if as soon as possible, and in the meantime, reach out to any get on the phone and reach out. I mean, I'm never a shy guy, so I mean, I've called in my past, and say, hey, I'm new, and have a conversation with somebody at another firm. I'll do that in a heartbeat. I don't have a problem doing that. And so if I was you, if I was them, I would go to a website, see who the people are, and then leave them a voice message, leave them a call. And then if you can't get in touch with them, say, hey, Beau, do you know this person? Or maybe you want me to do a soft introduction. Do you know this person at this firm? Because you've done your research. I would like to have a conversation with them and see if they wouldn't mind me shadowing. I can then call or email them and say, hey, this person wants to at least just come and shadow. And I know probably off the top of my head, at least 10 female tenant rep brokers that wouldn't have a problem doing that.
Wow. Okay.
You have to ask not, the word says.
So I'm keeping a watch of the time, because I know you're busy. We've gone over our time, but the conversation has started about, what's going on currently with commercial real estate. And it changed into, luckily for me and anybody else that's going to be watching this, is really a mentorship or a study guide for somebody new in commercial real estate. I appreciate that. So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate it.
I come from, from a humble beginning, and so I definitely empathize with them. So I'm grateful that I'm where I'm at right now, that I can do what I need to do for the client, for tenants.